The Building Brands podcast is dedicated to exploring the journeys of industry leaders who have successfully built a brand. Join me, Robert Royer, president of Building Brands Marketing, and an entrepreneur who has successfully scaled multiple brands as we dive deep into the strategies, challenges, and insights that have shaped the success of industry leaders and provide you with the resources you need to do the same. Building Brands Marketing is a full-service marketing agency specializing in crafting customized marketing strategies for service-based businesses with a creative powerhouse to drive real results. Welcome to the Building Brands Podcast. Welcome to the Legal Leader series of the Building Brands Podcast. Today, we welcome Adam Williams, owner and co-founder of Pennywise Tax Strategies and Rust Belt Business Law. Welcome, Adam.
Good to be here.
Adam, I know that you are an attorney, but Pennywise Tax Strategies has been really your area of focus since the pandemic. I know it was born as a shift from the pandemic. So talk to us, start out by just telling us a little bit about the largest wins and turning points since launching that you've had with Pennywise Tax Strategies.
Yeah, I think for us, it really started back with our law firm. Early in the pandemic, we jumped on all the new programs that came out. A lot of loans and grants and rescue programs for businesses, really. And we realized as we were digging into that, a lot of business owners, a lot of law firm owners were really missing out on a lot of opportunities that the tax code created for them. So we launched this business a little over 2 years ago, kind of did a little quietly, sort of alpha testing, beta testing, how it would go. Maybe we started with beta testing. I think our firm was the alpha test for it. And it went really well, but I remember the moment a little over a year ago where we signed up a law firm to work with us that was doing about $20 million a year in revenue, which for a single shareholder law firm is pretty significant. And since then, I think we've signed up 3 or 4 more law firms of that size. And I think it's a testament to the type of work that we do, but also our approach to it. Like, we understand professional services, we understand law firms, and I think people really like working with us. Probably the other 2 biggest wins, I was able to, in the last 4 or 5 months, we hired an attorney who used to work at the IRS, which was a big win for us. We're not done recruiting like that, but that was a big goal that I set, is I want to convince somebody to come over to work with the good guys. And then
Very cool.
Just this morning, my wife and I were laughing because we signed up a client about 2 weeks ago, found like immediately a $10,000 mistake that her prior accountant made. And since then, she has sent us 2 clients and a potential employee. So that when we're handling marketing and recruiting in one move, we really like that.
Absolutely. So Pennywise Tax Strategies focuses on tax planning primarily for attorneys or exclusively for attorneys?
I would say primarily. It's a little bit by design, just because that's where our networks and our connections are. And again, It's an area of expertise that we have. There's another business in this space that refuses to work with attorneys, and I think anybody could understand why. So yeah, it's just kind of the natural result of how we started things, and then of course the referrals grow because of the networks that attorneys are in. So yeah, we're not mad about that at all.
Yeah, so I know you focused on a lot of referrals. You've done some speaking opportunities to grow the firm. What other marketing strategies have you used to grow the firm since its launch?
Yeah, it's, in my mind, there's like the perfect marketing campaign where you give somebody the free lead magnet and then they pay for something inexpensive, and then you can sort of escalate them through your sales process. And that's nice. But what we found is, and we do a lot of that stuff, but the reality is, for the work that we do, a little bit higher ticket, we're never the first accountant that anybody works with, right? To come and work with us, they have to end a prior relationship, which can be difficult. So we found that just like a lot of sort of branding and getting our mission and our vision and our message out there really helps, because people can trust us a little bit more. They understand what we're about. So if you asked me 5 years ago if I was interested in sort of generic branding type marketing, I'd say no. Direct response is where it's at. That's all I want to do. But we've found with things like, I have a podcast, obviously do a lot of speaking, both on tax strategies and other entrepreneurship and business tactics. So just kind of getting out there and getting people to know us has been really helpful.
Yeah. What type of KPIs or metrics do you use to gauge the success of these branding efforts? That's like the age old question. It's very challenging. I work with a lot of firms where they may focus on blended cost per leads
Yep.
or increase in branded organic search over time. What type of metrics are you tracking to gauge effectiveness of your branding efforts?
I'm not so sure. We don't do a lot of tracking on the branding side, right? We kind of have a category when we track our leads and clients that's just sort of like fuzzy math. There are people that have seen me speak in person 2 times. They've been to the webinars that we do. They've downloaded our guides, and it's like, how do you track that, right? We've had
Yeah.
37 touch points with this person. But we do keep an eye on just broadly our cost of acquisition across all channels. Obviously, some of them are easier to measure than others, but frankly, that's been a huge challenge for our business too, is because I don't think a lot of marketers want to share that information with if you're working with an outside vendor because they're afraid of what it actually shows.
Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. Do you think that there's any major areas of opportunity in regards to your marketing strategy over the next few years? Now that, let's see, you're 5 years in now, is that right?
We're only 2 years in with Pennywise, but we've had the law
Two,
firm
two with
for
Pennywise.
15.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious, but right now anyway, but AI is going to completely transform every aspect of business. And for us, it's actually kind of starting with our marketing. I don't have all the answers for that. We just started a committee in our business on how we can use AI in every aspect of our business. But I think the other part of it is, I watched a little bit of Hermosi's book launch over the weekend, and the guy made whatever, 150, $200 million on that launch. And yes, it's a great offer. And yes, he's done great lead generation, but a big part of that success has to do with Alex Hermosi and the brand of Alex Hermosi, right? It's not acquisitions.com. It's not his business. It's him. People are invested in him. So I think for us trying to, for both my wife and I, trying to build a little bit of a personal brand or a lot of a personal brand, because that's really where people are going to end up making buying decisions, I think, in the future. As more things get automated, as more things are built by computers, they still need that human interaction.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I teach a whole workshop on this, and it's, I'm a millennial, and I think my generation somewhat struggled with seeing the pros to leveraging your personal brand to influence your corporate brand versus the cons of trying to create, this clear line in the sand to work-life balance and then not taking advantage of, the connection and correlation between the two. So what do
We
you,
did
when
it.
you talk about,
Yeah,
oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Adam.
Well, I was going to say, we did it the wrong way in the law firm. I led off and it was basically the law office of me, right? Which meant that every
Uh-huh.
single person that came in wanted to work with Adam Williams. So I think finding that balance between there's a personal brand, but there's a business on the back end of it, and people understanding like not everybody gets to work with Adam. You can for a price, but you can get often just as good results at a lower price by working with the rest of our team.
That's exactly right. And I talk about it all the time with service-based entities, especially when they get larger where there's very specialized roles in the firm and it's
Yep.
not just like one person that does a little bit of everything. There's massive benefit to working with that specialist versus
Yep.
just the face of the firm that may not be the best in the firm at every single thing. That's
Yep.
why they've hired other experts and specialists in these respective areas,
Yep. For
Uh,
sure.
and that's like the service-based business owner's like largest challenge. And it's like it's not real, right? Like it's not real that this is the upper echelon quality of service that you have to have me in order to get this quality of service when there's other experts in the industry and other experts within the firm in many cases as you grow and scale over time. So I'm curious, you're focusing more on personal branding now. You see the benefit of it. I know that your firm is strategizing ways to elevate that. Where do you see return on investment and time best spent in doing so moving forward?
Yeah, it's all about making sure you're putting enough in each bucket. So yeah, there's the near term immediate impact marketing that we still do. The personal brand or just branding in general is really long-term investment. So it's just kind of keeping an eye on, where are the leads coming from? Are we going to
Sure.
see, we could double our business tomorrow with effective direct response marketing. Personal brand stuff, it's a much longer game with that. So we're just sort of keeping an eye on metrics that really in the long run, I don't think are going to matter. But, what's our engagement like? What's the traffic like? How many followers do we have? None of those things directly put money in my pocket, so I think they're kind of vanity metrics. But for now, as we build this, I think it's a good starting point for that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I would add to that, I know I touched on this briefly a few minutes ago, but one of the best indicators I see that is a little bit more directly attributable to revenue is branded organic search, which you could see through Google Search Console, of course, but also branded conversion data, which you can also track in the same way through Google Search Console and Google Analytics 4. And that branded conversion data most of the time is the number one most attributable component to branding and marketing as it pertains to like awareness and top of funnel efforts, because it's so hard to quantify that.
Yep.
And I think that, so that is a very attributable, analytic to monitor. And in most cases where we're working on branding campaigns, that's the number one objective that we monitor is branded conversions. How many branded conversions are we getting? The challenge with that is, especially with massive service-based firms, they have so many marketing efforts going at any one given time. Now, how do you attribute it to? Was it the billboard? Was it the radio ads? Was it the, online video ads? That's the challenge. But is there, any tips that you would have for other service-based business owners on other forms of attribution there?
I mean, it really, I think, requires an understanding of how the numbers work. So I can look at a dashboard and I can see where the trend is, and is it up or down, or are we ahead of pace or behind pace, or above the goal or below the goal? But really understanding how those things interplay, I think, is really important. And business owners, whether they're lawyers or just professionals, I mean, any businesses really, we are not trained as accountants. We're not trained as CFOs. We're not really trained on how to look at those numbers. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it's a skill that you have to learn if you want to break through to that next level. So I just say, get as cozy as you can with all of your numbers, and you'll start to understand which knobs you turn that actually make a difference.
Yeah, it's a great point. Well, Adam, are there any other, final words of advice you would give to other service-based business owners, whether lawyer, tax planner, doctor, any of the like?
Yeah, I mean, this comes from actually a coach that we work with, but nobody knows who you are. Until you can walk in the grocery store in your town and have everybody recognize you, you're not doing enough. So whether that's spending more on advertising or just doing more to get your name and get your brand out there, nobody knows who you are.
That's fantastic advice. And I think, so me personally, I live in a town of, technically our census data says 68,000. It's probably closer to 90. Okay. But, I know that in a community what some people would consider small, a lot of people can feel like, hey, I've got a long reputation here. I've been here 20 years, that sort of stuff. And you hit the nail on the head. But if you really think that, walk into the grocery store and see if, everybody recognizes you. Yep. I think that part of it also in service-based entities sometimes can be somewhat ego-driven, which our egos can be also a major downfall in terms of marketing many times when we rely on our ego and intuition and not, the actual data. So I love that advice. And I think the other flip side of that coin, devil's advocate, would be a massive opportunity as well, because of that, you now have the opportunity today to shape the story of what you want your brand to be known as, and so if you haven't flipped that switch yet, and you were listening, okay, well, good. You haven't, now you have the opportunity to start off on the right foot.
Yep.
Adam, it's been a pleasure. Any final words you'd like to share?
No, I think what you just said about ego would probably be my second piece of advice is don't advertise just because your face looks cool on a billboard, right? Advertise because it actually drives the results that put food on your table.
Yeah, we talk about lawyers. I've seen it with PI lawyers waste tens of thousands of dollars because of an ego in many instances, and it probably wasn't the right place. If your whole budget is soaked up in one billboard on the main spot on the highway, it could work and may have worked in some instances, but generally speaking, there's a better way to spend that budget. Adam, it's been a pleasure. Where can our listeners and viewers find out more about your firm online?
Yeah, so Pennywise is pennywise.tax. We're available on all the social media channels. We have a really great Facebook group where we share a lot of really good tips and stuff like that. So look for Pennywise Tax Strategies and you'll see my face or my wife's face.
Awesome. Well, Adam, thanks for being here today. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.